Hi, my name is Bengt-Erik, and I'm working on the company of EFAB. Here is where I live, in my house. It's built from trees that grew in the forest in the 18th century. And the timber in my house will store atmospheric carbon dioxide for another hundreds of years if it don't fail for some accident or something. A little bit about me. I am an independent energy consultant in the borderland between academia, government, and business, and I've been in this area since 1984. I am a well-known bioenergy expert in small and medium-sized combustion technology, and also for developing new biomass fuels. I am a door opener for cooperation between bioenergy companies in Europe and North America, and also been working with several projects in companies, in organizations, with the aim of creating new businesses and business opportunities. I was also responsible for the Swedish Pellet Association until 2020, when I became a part-time pensioner. And me and my family have chosen to heat our house with wood pellets. So that's a little bit about me. Today I would like to speak a little bit about the opportunities for more biomass in the society. But I can also see some main problem to reach more renewable energy sources to the European market, beside of course, of the new opportunities. The difficulties are mainly lack of understanding from environmental organizations. They have been always thinking about and promote that bioenergy we're cutting trees just to burn, and bioenergy are not good for environmental research. Even the European Parliament wants to ban the use of logging residues for energy. So the environmental organizations lobbying have been rather successful. And we can also see it in the Repower European Union report that aim to make European Union more independent of Russian gas, and at the same time increase the green energy transition. In this report, they have forgotten bioenergy. They talk about every renewable sources without biomass. And that is remarkable and terrifying, because biomass is worldwide the largest renewable energy sources in the world. About the Russian aggression in Ukraine, that has been a wake-up call for many of us. And could that wake-up call and the ongoing energy crisis become a game changer for more bioenergy in the society? Biomass provides safe and locally produced energy, and it becomes more and more important to have a sense of security in these troubled times that we have today. It becomes even more obvious how vulnerable our society has become. The war in Ukraine shows how deeply dependent our countries of the world are to trade with each other. Most of the world's fossil energy comes from countries where democratically elected regimes are absent. Increased prices of gas and fuel also put a pressure on the price of electricity, which in turn drives up the price level of almost all goods we trade. More locally produced food and energy would contribute to increased security and make us less vulnerable to the world's evil other threat image. So if we should look forward, we had to start looking backwards. And I will go back to the 70s in Sweden. In that area, in that period, Sweden were 80% dependent on imported oil. Our dependency on oil has been built up in just a couple of decades after the Second World War. 80% are coming from oil. And when the price crisis increased, they were terribly hit by the economical disaster in Sweden. Germany and large part of Europe are currently in a similar process as Sweden was in the 1970s. In recent decades, Europe had become incredibly independent of Russian natural gas and oil. During our crisis in the 70s, that was the starting point for district heating and combined heat and power from biomass, and also starting point and startup for our nuclear plants. During these 50 years, the LNG balance in Sweden had completely changed. Today, renewable sources are 55% of the total use of energy, and biomass alone are covering almost 39% of the total use of energy in Sweden. That include both transport, lighting, and heating sector. For us, it was obvious. We had to get rid of oil dependence as soon as possible. There was a total agreement between the left and red wings of the politicians in Sweden. We had lots of backing for a long-term and credible agenda. And the long-term agenda, including carbon tax. And there was, of course, huge discussions that the Swedish politicians were the only politicians in the world who will cut down and kill their own industry by implementing a carbon tax. But the brave politicians stand by. And since 1991, our carbon tax has increased year by year and are today about 109 euro per ton in CO2 emissions. That is 5 times higher than in UK and higher than any other country in the world. And it's double up the price of the cap and trade emission that we have in European Union. And the carbon tax became a success because it increased the price of fossil energy, which of course was the meaning of the tax. But at the same time, they open up for all kind of renewables. So solar, wind, and biomass had to compete with equal terms on the market. We have, of course, all problem these days. But our problems in Sweden are far less than the problems are in the rest of the Europe. That is because 39% of our total use of energy are residues from products from our forest industry. 50% of all homes and buildings in Sweden are connected to district heating network. And the district heating network was mostly heated by biomass or recovered energy from the industry. 10% of our electricity are produced of biomass in CHP plants. And Sweden are today the largest exporter of electricity within the European Union. So our problems are far less than the problems in Europe. And locally produced energy provides us a more independent future than other parts of Europe. Another good example in getting rid of the problem is Lithuania, who shows that it is possible to break the dependence of imported Russian gas. Since 2010, the dependence has been reduced by switching from gas to biomass. Today, Lithuania ranks as third in fossil independence after Sweden and Finland. Share of Russian natural gas in district heating plant has been reduced from 74% to 15%. And in the same time, the bioenergy share increased from 19 up to 78% until 2020. And there will be even lower numbers of gas, because very soon they will open up a new large wood-fired CHP plant in Vilnius. It will be set in operation. So back to the destiny question of our time. Are we able to meet our future environmental and climate requirements? We have so many challenges that we have to deal with. But one thing are for sure, there is no silver bullet that can solve all the problems. All kinds of renewable sources are necessary. And biomass will always be a major energy carrier. The discussions today about biomass shortage and price will not be the main problem for the future. Biomass for energy production are mainly coming from byproducts from the forest industry. When we are logging timber, we normally log it for sawmills or pulp production. And with sawmills, we saw lumber, and with lumber, we make a long time life storage in buildings and other solid wood products. And for paper and so on, we can recycle at least 2 or 3 times before it goes to combustion. So that is the main source of using woodlog timber. The side stream about byproducts, that could be sawdust or tops and branches that are low quality timber, that goes to wood chips and wood pellets, who goes to combustion in energy plants and goes to the atmosphere. And from the atmosphere, it goes back by growing trees and so on to create a new storage in new forests and so on. So that is a recycling part of it. But it can also be positive. It always have some kind of energy for transport, for cutting, for wood logging, for energy, for sawing and so on. But it also open up the opportunities with the combustion from energy plants to be climate positive by bio-CCS collection, trapping carbon dioxide from the excess gases and dig it down in the ground again. And also a storage in buildings and so on. You can see my house with timber from 1800 and 18th century, and there are still a strong storage in our house for the future. So bioenergy is either positive or negative, but it's not carbon neutral. But one thing are for sure. Biomass can never, ever emit more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere than the trees have taken up. So even if we cut trees just for burning, we can't release more carbon dioxide than the trees have taken up when it grows. Our biomass is to 100% byproducts from our forest industry. and we don't cut any forest, any trees just for fire. The biomass use for fuels, plastic, textile provides a higher value than heat. That means that money talks. The biomass goes where the people who paid the best price for the raw material. We have reduced our climate footprint by replacing fossil energy for heat and power production since we implemented in 70th the bio strategy in Swedish. We don't deforest our forests. Swedish forests increase carbon storage by 36 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. And bioenergy creates job and welfare even outside the metropolitan areas, and keep money stays in the local economy. So I can see that the whole world and Europe needs sustainable forestry that aims to increase the growth of and also biodiversity. That would be the same discussions both for environmental organizations and for forestry industry. We are not enemies, we can cooperate. So, to be positive, today's energy crisis are a golden mode for more energy from biomass. Everyone knows that we must end the dependence of imported oil and gas as soon as possible. And biomass is climate smart and a storable energy carrier, often produced locally. And it's also a boost for the economy as more money stays in the local economy. But also we had to face with a higher competitions for raw material that increased. We can use biomass for log production, wood and plank. We can use it for pulp production, paper, newspaper. We can use it for biofuels, for vehicle transport sector, and we can use it for textile and bioplastic. And it's always those who pay the best price who get the raw material. But the growth in our forests is much higher than what we are harvest. Approximately 80% of what's growing in the forest are harvest. 20% are building up a carbon storage. That's obvious that it's always climate smart to build more in wood instead of steel and concrete. And when we're building more in wood, we also get more residues that we can use for replacing fossil energy in our heat plants. Half of what we are harvesting in the forest are residual product, and that can be used to replace fossil energy. If we look upon wood chips, tops and barns and so on, and stumps, we can use it as we do in Sweden. We can use it for heat, electricity, and biofuels. 70% of our district heating comes from biomass or waste. And electricity are 10% coming from, 10% of the total production of electricity are coming from CHP plant. And 25% of our fuels for vehicles are coming from biomass. In total, 142 terawatt hours, almost 40%, 38% of the total use of energy are biomass in our energy balance. So it would be extremely unwise not to use the forest residues for electricity and heat production, and also to contribute to our transport. But of course, if we look in the eyes of the consumers, it is very foolish it's very foolish to put all the eggs in the same basket. It is smart if we can prioritize multifunction. For example, if we use an air source heat pump in the summer when we have the best COP and supplement with wood or pellets heating when it gets colder, all the electrical energy that we can save and replace in winter is valuable for many other social functions. Using electricity to get only 20 degrees warm is not currently the most optimal thing to do. By using biomass on cold days, we will save electric power for other demands. So, the message from our authorities in Sweden: we are also in the same situation that Europe are. We have an electricity shortage. Everyone has to work together to reduce the use of electricity. Take a shorter time of showers, shut down the temperature indoors, shut down your lighting. Every kilowatt hour counts. And the Energy Agency in Sweden said, help us save the electricity. Even a small change make a difference. But at the same time, the same authority says that don't forget to buy your electrical car. So it's obvious we have a turbulent future and chaotic times of a new world. So summing up, think positively. Nothing is impossible. Seek broad political agreement for long-term solutions. Carbon tax is always better than grants. If you can beat them, join them. If you are able to enter the organization, the environmental organizations, you can talk to them from the inside and trying to convince them that all renewable alternatives are needed. And finally, don't put all the eggs in the same basket. Prioritize multifunction. So let today's crisis be a game changer. Say yes to the more energy from biomass. Bioenergy is a local, it's a safe, and it's a cost-effective, and it's a renewable energy carrier for the future. Thank you for listening.